Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're taking a journey, and it's a fascinating but also a pretty disturbing one, far from our usual topics.
hmm
We're going to a quiet village in Kerala, India, called Kudathai, and we're looking at a case that well, it completely shattered the idea of normalcy there.
We're talking about the Ponomatum family. On the surface, they were the picture of respectability.
Exactly. But behind that facade, 6 family members died, mysteriously, over 14 very long years, from 2002 all the way to 2016.
It's a profoundly chilling case because this wasn't some stranger in the shadows. The perpetrator was hiding in absolute plain sight for more than a decade.
And that perpetrator, the person at the center of all this, is Jolly Joseph, the family's daughter-in-law.
Yeah, and she was so trusted, so well integrated. Neighbors, family, they all described her as jovial, friendly, pious. They even called her the jolly teacher.
That public persona is what makes the whole thing so disturbing, isn't it? This alleged crime spree, now known as the Kudathai cyanide killings.
Absolutely. She had achieved a level of trust that very few criminals ever managed to get.
So our mission in this deep dive is to trace that impossibly patient timeline. We're going to analyze the monumental forensic hurdles investigators faced years later.
And we'll also review the media and legal controversies that are still surrounding this massive ongoing trial. We've compiled our notes from, official reports, legal filings, and that big Netflix documentary to give you the clearest picture we can.
Okay, let's start at the beginning then. Because the foundation for this entire spree was built on a lie. A huge, intricate lie.
It's really the key to the whole thing. The entire framework was constructed on a single, sustained deception that went on for 14 years. Jolly Joseph was, in reality, a college dropout.
But she convinced everyone, her family, her community, that she had an M.Com degree, a Master of Commerce.
A very serious qualification in India. And, crucially, that she was a commerce lecturer at the prestigious National Institute of Technology, or NIT Calicut.
And she didn't just tell this lie, she lived it. Right. I mean, our sources mentioned she had a forged ID card.
Oh, yeah. She would leave home every single morning, pretending to commute to this high-status university job that just didn't exist.
The level of commitment that takes day in and day out for over a decade it's just mind-boggling.
It is, and it immediately establishes her as a pathological long-term liar. That's critical to understanding the motive because she was literally killing people to keep that deception going.
So it was about protecting the lie, but also about advancing her own agenda.
It was a toxic cocktail of motives: control, wealth, and lust. And she addressed them one by one, very systematically over time.
So she layered them. It wasn't just one thing. Where did the killing start?
It started with control over the family structure and, of course, the money. The first 2 victims were her in-laws.
Anama Thomas, the mother-in-law.
Right. She was the family matriarch, controlled the finances, and she was apparently the one putting pressure on Jolly to find a job that actually fit her, her supposed qualifications.
So she was an immediate threat to the lie.
A huge threat. So once Anama was gone, Jolly allegedly turned her attention to Tom Thomas, the father-in-law, to get control over the family property. She even used a forged will, reportedly, to secure her financial position after he died.
Eliminate the financial gatekeeper, then eliminate the property owner? Just so cold and calculated.
It is. And once she had the wealth more or less secured, she moved on to the romantic motive.
Which meant getting rid of her own husband, Roy Thomas.
Exactly. After eliminating Roy in 2011, she then starts to target the family of her first cousin, a man named Shaju Zachariah. The ultimate goal, investigators allege, was to marry Shaju.
Which she eventually did in 2017.
She did. But to get there, she first had to eliminate Shaju's 2-year-old daughter, Alfine, and then Shaju's wife, Silly. She literally cleared her own path to remarriage using poison.
And then there's that final layer. Anyone who got too suspicious, anyone who asked too many questions, became a liability.
That was Matthew Manchadil, Roy's uncle. He was the one who was most vocal about wanting an official inquiry after Roy's death. He was silenced.
So it wasn't just reactive, it was also preemptive. She was thinking several steps ahead.
When you lay all 6 steps out, you don't just see a killer, you see a long-term strategist. These weren't crimes of passion. These were calculated, spaced-out executions designed to look like a string of horrible luck.
Let's walk through that chilling timeline because the sheer spacing between the deaths is how she got away with it for so long. It just looked like a series of awful, unrelated tragedies.
Okay, so it starts in 2002. Anama Thomas, the mother-in-law. She collapses after drinking some mutton soup. The poison was allegedly something called dog kill, basically a common pesticide.
And it was ruled a heart attack. Case closed.
Case closed. Then nothing happens for 6 years. The family, the community, they have time to move on.
Until 2008.
Right. In 2008, Tom Thomas, the father-in-law, dies after collapsing. Again, allegedly from poisoned food. And again, it's ruled a heart attack.
2 sudden deaths, 6 years apart, both after a meal and both just written off as natural causes.
It's incredible. Then we get to the real turning point, 2011, with Jolly's husband, Roy Thomas.
This is one that changed everything.
It is. Roy died after dinner, rice and Bengal graham curry, and was found in a locked bathroom. Now here's the crucial detail. The uncle we just mentioned, Matthew Manjadel, he insisted on a post-mortem.
And that autopsy confirmed it. Cyanide poisoning.
Definitive, no question about it.
Wait, okay, so if the report confirmed cyanide, which is, a murder weapon, how on earth was the case closed?
It's one of the most unbelievable points of negligence in this whole story. Despite the clear forensic evidence, police initially closed the case as a suicide. They just cited Roy's alleged financial problems as the motive and moved on.
So they had the proof in their hands in 2011, just ignored it.
They did. Forensic surgeons later said that if police had just acted on that report, the next 3 deaths could have been prevented.
That failure gave her 3 more years of freedom.
Yeah.
Just incredible.
Precisely. So we jump to 2014. First, Matthew Manjadel, the uncle who insisted on the autopsy and was the biggest risk to her, died, allegedly after being given poison-laced whiskey.
Of course.
Then, later that same year, Alfine Shaju, the 2-year-old daughter of the man she wanted to marry, died after supposedly choking on poisoned food.
Eliminating the accuser and the potential stepchild in a single year.
And then the spree ends in 2016 with Silly Shaju, the wife. Silly died violently at a dental clinic after Jolly allegedly gave her a mushroom capsule and some water. 6 deaths, 14 years, all connected by one person.
This brings us to the really technical part, the forensic challenge. When the investigation was finally reopened in 2018, how do you even begin to prove murder when some of the victims have been buried for almost 2 decades?
That's the forensic crucible, isn't it? Cyanide is it's incredibly volatile. It metabolizes fast inside the body. After death, it degrades very quickly, especially when remains are in the ground, exposed to soil and moisture.
So finding traces of it after a few weeks is hard enough, let alone years.
Exactly. Any external evidence would be long gone. It's a monumental problem for investigators.
So with the evidence likely gone, who was the spark? What got the investigation started again?
It came from Roy's siblings, his brother, Rocho Thomas, who lives in the U.S., and his sister, Renji. Rojo got a copy of that 2011 autopsy report for Roy.
The one the police ignored.
The very one. And he noticed a huge inconsistency. The meal Jolly said Roy ate last didn't match the stomach contents in the autopsy. That, plus the fact that Rojo had already exposed her NIT professor lie back in 2012, was enough. They filed a new complaint demanding a full probe into all 6 deaths.
Wow. So a 7-year-old forgotten autopsy report was the key that unlocked the entire thing.
Absolutely. And speaking of that autopsy, there's a fascinating detail about the forensic surgeon, Dr. Sonia Aro. She didn't even wait for the full lab report to come back.
Really?
She possesses a rare genetic ability found in only about 1/3 of people to smell cyanide. It has a distinct scent of bitter almonds.
So she could literally smell the murder weapon.
She could, and she made a very strong inference right away, which the lab later confirmed. It was a crucial breakthrough that established the presence of poison, even if the police work that followed was flawed, to say the least.
So when the new probe began in 2019, they had 2 main pillars for the prosecution's scientific case. One was that old 2011 report. What was the second?
The second was the final victim, Silly Shaju. Because her death in 2016 was the most recent, investigators got lucky. When her remains were exhumed and tested in 2019, they also came back positive for traces of cyanide.
Okay, so they have 2 definitive toxicological findings. Roy in 2011 and Silly in 2016.
Right. But the remains of the earliest victims, Anamama, Tom, Matthew, and the little girl, Alfine, when they were exhumed, the tests found nothing. The degradation was just too complete.
And that's the core legal question, isn't it? If 4 out of 6 cases have no direct physical evidence of poison, how can the prosecution possibly get a conviction?
They have to rely on building what they call an unbroken chain of circumstances. It's a standard legal approach when direct evidence is gone.
So they use the clear pattern of the crimes as the proof itself.
Exactly. The prosecution argues that they don't need cyanide in the bones of the first 4 victims if they can show an irrefutable pattern. A pattern of motive, means, opportunity, and singular access by Jolly Joseph in every single case.
So they're saying the negative results were expected given how cyanide works, and so they don't weaken the overall case.
Precisely. They argue the circumstantial evidence is overwhelming, and it's anchored by the direct evidence from those two key cases.
It makes sense. It's a picture of calculated premeditation. But to paint that picture, you need the murder weapon.
Huh.
Where was she getting the cyanide?
She wasn't making it herself. This brings in the accomplices. M.S. Matthew, a distant relative and lover who worked at a jewelry shop, and Praji Kumar, a goldsmith.
Because potassium cyanide is commonly used in electroplating for the jewelry trade.
Exactly right. According to the police, Matthew confessed to getting the cyanide from Praji Kumar, and the exchange was just incredibly casual. Allegedly, it was for 2 bottles of alcohol and 5,000 rupees.
And they had no idea what she was planning.
Apparently not. Matthew claimed Jolly told him she wanted the poison to kill a stray dog. And Praji Kumar, the goldsmith, said he just assumed it was for killing rats.
It just shows how effective her lies were. She could maintain that normal, believable facade even while getting her hands on a murder weapon.
Mm-hmm.
Let's shift gears to the psychology here. To maintain a 14-year lie while systematically killing your family requires a very specific kind of person.
It really does. Experts, including Assistant Professor Mabin Wilson-Thomas, called her case an encyclopedia for forensic psychology study.
An encyclopedia. That's a staggering statement. What did they find?
Well, they applied standard criteria like Robert Hare's checklist for psychopathy. And Thomas observed that Jolly's character matched 16 out of the 21 characteristics of a psychopath.
16. Can you give us some examples of how those traits showed up?
The most obvious ones are pathological lying, which we've covered, but also cunning, manipulativeness, and a complete lack of guilt or remorse. A psychopath sees other people as objects, tools to be used for their own gain.
And when you look at the timeline,
It's a textbook demonstration. Using her in-laws for property, her husband for freedom, Shaju's family for remarriage. It's just systematic exploitation. And experts specifically said she had no genuine mental issues, but was just acting disturbed after her arrest, likely to get leniency from the court.
so meticulously executed long-term plan, but the legal trial itself seems to be moving incredibly slowly.
That's often how it goes in these complex cases. The trial for Roy Thomas's murder is still ongoing, and they've already examined 124 prosecution witnesses. It's also been slowed down by things like the death of her former